Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I hope everyone is doing okay and having a good time and enjoying the Saturday. We have lots of interesting stuff to discuss today, and we hope that you would enjoy this behavioral track which we have started. We are on week 11. We have one more week to go, which is week 12, which will be next week, and we will be discussing lots of interesting stuff in week 2 too also. So I hope everyone is having a good time, and I really appreciate your support for BESA program. We won't be able to do this without you, so thanks for that. And today we have lots of interesting guest speakers with me, and I'll quickly add them to the screen, and then I'll first explain that what we are going to discuss today, and then I'll introduce each of them to you. So we would get started by talking around three. We will talk about three speakers. So first we would have Neeraja Ganesh, who would talk about the personal brand building. James would take a lecture on learning by teaching, and then we would have Victory with us, who is a solution architect coming from AWS Restart program. So she would be also joining, and we'll talk about how to move forward in career journey, how she started, what obstacles she faced. So lots of interesting stuff, and you could see that these are coming from different plethoras or different stream of the life. So really interesting to have such a bright audience here and such a bright speakers to listen from them. So keep your questions coming. We would try to ensure that most of the questions get answered. And let me now add uh, Neerja ma'am to the stream. Good good afternoon, Neerja ma'am.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
And you are based in Bangalore, I guess, so right?
That's right. Yes.
Nice. How is the weather out there as of now? Means Bangalore is known to be have good weather, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. But it is hot. And while I was, also telling Ashish that we realize that we have good weather when we go somewhere else outside of Bangalore. Otherwise, we complain. But it's all right. I think it is hot now.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
very quickly, I think it will start raining to bring down the temperature. So, yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I remember the days like whenever the temperature would go around 24, 25, it would rain in Bangalore. So that was like quite soothing. So I was really happy when I moved to Bangalore last a few years back. Yeah. But
Sure.
yeah, small world, I would say. So happy to have you here. And
Thank
thanks for your time. I appreciate you have like odd time zone Saturday and still coming with us. So thank you for that. Now I'll quickly like to introduce you, and then obviously I'll let you speak about yourself. That would be much better. But let me quickly talk about who is Neerja Ganesh. So Neerja ma'am would be helping us today with the personal brand building. So brand is a really important aspect of whatever you do in your uh, professional journey. So she would talk to us about how to build your brand, and she has been like a phenomenal speaker in different programs which are like uh, she has spoken for different AWS program. Plus, she is Aspire for her. She is inside that program too. So probably she will talk a little bit more on that, how those programs run and all these things. So welcome, ma'am, and I'll hand it over to you now. Just introduce yourself, and we will get started.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Ashish. Yes, in Bangalore, one of the things that always happens is you'll find a software engineer. So I also started my career in the IT field and stayed on in it for 25 years. I was largely working in the space of banking, banking domain, and IT for banking. So I quit from the corporate world in 2017. I was working at Capgemini then. I used to head the delivery for one of their clients, banking clients, and then I decided I would like to pursue my passion. A few interests that I had. One is, of course, in the space of women and looking at women, helping them in terms of their careers and getting them to aspire and also realize their potential and reach their potential. So I did that. I also thought I must interact with the youth of our country. So I went and worked in a college so that we could actually build or rather bridge the industry academia gap. I'm sure some
Mm-hmm.
of the reasons for you to start these initiatives is because there is a gap, right? What does the industry want? There is obviously a lot of education out there, formal, informal. One can always learn through the n number of platforms that are available, but still there is a gap, right? That is not exactly
Yeah.
what the industry wants. So the role that I played in a national college here in Bangalore was to bridge the gap. So I used to get industry experts like you to review our curriculum or to add on to our curriculum and see how we could enhance the education. And of course, I've remained in touch with the space of women. I do consult at Aspire for Her, which is a 3-year-old platform now. We have plenty of communities of girls and women, including Women on a Career Break. And we're glad to have support from organizations like AWS to help these women restart their careers. I freelance and I do a lot of leadership development programs. Again, it happens to be a lot of the space of women. And yes, I get invited to do a lot of these talks.
Nice.
I enjoy them because I realize that the impact that one can create with this is
Mm-hmm.
humongous. It's beyond sitting in an MBA class or reading a book or something like that. Even one line that you might catch from the speaker
Exactly.
is really impactful. It was one such conference, and me sitting in a conference and listening to one of the speakers, which actually changed my mindset. And that's when I shifted out from corporate to do the things that I am doing. So I think it's beautiful that we have such opportunities, and yeah, that's
That's
some
so
of the things that
interesting
I
to
do.
hear. Yeah, and we have like live example within our BESA group. So Parna, she was with you. Me, she got inspired by you. She was in Aspire for her program, and now she is working for AWS. So yeah, what a career journey! And thanks
Absolutely.
for like this. Because of her, we were able to connect with you. Otherwise, we would not have connected. But yeah, that's good to hear. So I want to focus on like what you want to talk about brand, and obviously brand is something which is very very important for I think. So how we define things like what is personal branding? Is it just posting messages on LinkedIn, or is it something else?
Sure. That's that's good. That's a good question. And if that's one of the myths that we have to bust, I for sure will bust it. So let's start. If some of you who are attending this event now, if you saw my social media post yesterday about this
Hmm.
event, I'd asked, how do you introduce yourselves, right? I mean, that's the
Exactly.
first thing all of us have to do. I also introduce myself here. Now, the professional introduction would go as Neeraja Ganesh, Head Education Initiatives, Aspire for Her, right? I mean, that's what we usually do.
Hmm.
Um, now, I do that because it is expected that the name that we have is followed by the designation and name of the organization that you work at. So I consider Aspire for Her, and that's the role that I have. Now, in a personal space, it would be Neerja Ganesh. And depending on the circle where you are, if
Hmm.
you are at your husband's family side, then you may say, okay, I'll say wife of T.N. Ganesh, right? If at my daughter's school or college circle, where of course I'm no longer expected to be, my daughter is 21, it says just keep away, all right. So I
Yeah.
would probably say I am Sneha's mother. What happens when I move out of this organization? Like I moved out of Capgemini and I moved out without a job. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, how do I introduce myself? As long as you are in a job, there is another designation that catches up
You have
another
it.
organization. So the minute you're out of a job and you don't have something which is employable, you'll say Neerja Ganesh unemployed. I mean, doesn't kind of
It doesn't
go with
sense.
it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So when Neeraja Ganesh, just the name, and I'm taking an example, and we could have so many such examples, brings certain perceptions, perspectives, some recall that you have the minute you hear of a name. And even when you're there or not there during the conversation, the minute you take a name and there is a recall, that's the personal brand.
Yeah.
Um, and all of us need to work to get there. And I also want to start by saying that we all have a brand, whether we like it or not. It's not that,
Hmm.
okay, I don't have one and I have to start building. All of us
Yeah.
have a brand. Today, we have a particular brand. Now, whether this is something that you wanted or not is something that you have to reflect on. whether you created it intentionally or not, right? So, like AWS is a brand, VMware as a brand, Google as a brand, each of the individuals has a brand. Indra Nooyi, as an example, I would like to take, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, she was the ex CEO of PepsiCo. That is something that you'll remember about her. She's written a book, My Life in Full. But I think one of the brand recalls that we have about her is that of an Indian woman who came from a middle class family and she rose up to be a global leader. And why is that a brand beyond her CEO? I mean, we don't talk so much about her being a CEO, but so many of her stories of how she reached
Hmm.
there. You know, she has done so many interviews where she speaks about a mother's guilt and how did she manage her two children as, she was growing up the career ladder. And all those stories are out there in the media. And hence, that is a particular brand that comes with her. So, social media helps kind of accentuate your brand, but it is not, what is creating your brand. You create your brand, and a brand is nothing without a story. So
Hmm.
what is our story? How does it support our growth? That is what one needs to, kind of reflect on. As I said, posting on social media only enhances it, but that's not how brands get created. What you do, how does it make you stand out? Because each of us is doing something similar to the other, right? So Neeraja is
Exactly.
a speaker and there are tons of speakers. So how do I do something which is different to so many others? So your USP, that we say, unique selling proposition, and not only differentiate, but does it make you memorable, which is more important, right? It's
Hmm.
not about you talking about yourselves, it is about everyone else talking about you. So why did Parna invite me to this today? There are a plethora of people who have a brand, who talk about personal branding, who do workshops about personal branding, but for some reason she chose me, and then she chose this topic because I do talk on many many topics also.
I get your point.
That's
Yeah.
the connect, right? I will also give one more story before we move on. So a couple of years ago, someone invited me to a diversity and inclusion, round table. I had to moderate this round table. So this organization was helping another technology organization set up their India arm, so a global organization. And the CIO and the head of technology India, they wanted to understand how diversity and inclusion is planted and grown in Indian organizations. So this company, which was helping them set up, they kind of convened this round table, and they invited a lot of other heads of technologies, diversity inclusion leaders, a lot of platforms, say like an example is Aspire for Her, which look at diversity and inclusion. And then they called me and they said, would I moderate this? I said,
Hmm.
yeah, why not? Something that I like. So when I walked into the room, the person who had invited me, the first thing she said was, when it comes to DNI, which is diversity and inclusion, the first person who comes to my mind is Neeraja Ganesh. So I just reached out to you. Now that is a brand. That is what you need to have for yourselves in terms of the recall value. It is not about the designation. I happen to run the education initiatives at Aspire for her, but the brand that probably I have is of being a diversity and inclusion evangelist. So nobody calls me a diversity and inclusion expert. They call me as someone who champions diversity and inclusion. I'm
Hmm.
known for my networking, right? So these are some of the aspects that are the recall value, and that is your personal brand. So I did struggle a bit. It just didn't happen overnight. When I quit from Capgemini, I struggled to introduce myself. I said, to some people, I said I'm in between jobs. To some people, I said I'm on a break. For some people, I said I'm thinking of what I really want to do, etc. But today, when people invite me for talks, they ask me, okay, what is the designation that we can put? And I say, put whatever you feel like, because it is Neerja Ganesh. Designations don't define me. So people put whatever they feel like, right? Like here we had TEDx speaker, leadership trainer, networking
Hmm.
coach, DNI champion. So that is the personal brand. Social media has just got an element to enhance it, but otherwise it's you the person and the story.
Makes sense. Yeah, completely makes sense. I agree on that. So yeah, something which you could relate to whenever I speak about someone, like when I talk about, let's say, film star, I probably
Yes,
recall for a few seconds in my mind, like, hey, how I know this person or where I've seen this person. So I
so
agree on that
that's
completely.
right.
Now I want to move to next question. Like, When we talk about brand building, is it only for job seekers, or let's say I'm not looking for a job, then why I should worry about my brand building? Means I'm settled. I don't want to move forward. So why I need that?
Sure, sure. A little bit of, I think, my previous answer would have kind of given some
Yeah.
insights into this, but let me tell you, everyone needs to have a brand. Let's start there. It's not about seekers, homemakers, I'm comfortable, I've reached there, none of that. Everyone needs to have a brand and needs to continually focus on it and enhance it. Um, so you gave a great example. Say Amitabh Bachchan as a brand, right? Um, I think beyond just being an actor, there are many facets of Mr. Amitabh Bachchan that we are going to recollect. Or Apple. Uh, it is Steve Jobs, right, that you probably remember
Mhm.
before you look
Exactly.
at the brand of Apple. So I think it is that brand which will get you plenty of airtime. It's the limelight that you have on yourselves when you walk into a room, be it a social circle, professional circle, or a community. So again, I want to give you some. So I'm a storyteller, so you will hear a lot of
Yeah,
stories.
we like to hear stories.
Today, my daughter, she's well known because of the work that she does. So she's been working at Aspire for her for 3 years, and she does a lot of public speaking and many other things. So today, she is well known, and she also uses social media to enhance that. But 5 years ago, when we were looking for colleges for her to get into PUC, the 11th standard, there was this college that we had gone to submit the application. So we had to give the marks card, the 10th standard marks card in one counter. And then we had to stand in this queue to meet the president and the principal of the college. It was a long queue. So we stood in the queue for about 30 minutes and then we were told that it is lunchtime. So the president and the principal, they will have their lunch, which will take another 30 minutes. So we have to wait. So the queue had to wait. So my daughter and I decided that we will go out. There is another college that we wanted to also submit the application, which was just next to this. So we
Mhm.
moved out of the queue and we thought we'll go there and come back. I know that we will lose our spot if we get out of the queue,
Yeah.
but we were okay. I mean, at least some work we'll get done. As we stepped out, the faculty member who was collecting the marks card, right, where my daughter had submitted her marks card, she came out and asked us what happened. Now, we could not tell her that we are going to another college. So we
Yeah.
told her that we are also going to have lunch. Now, she sensed something. So she asked us to wait for a few minutes. So she went from the back side. So that room where the president principal was sitting had also a backdoor entry. So she went from there. She spoke to them and she came out after a bit and she told us that the president is waiting to meet us immediately. Now, the entire long queue kept looking as my daughter just walked into the room. Okay. And then of course in the room, more than what the president and principal could ask my daughter asked tons of questions about the college, what is available. And because we had not heard of this college as much, and so what the president did was the same faculty member, he asked that lady to take my daughter on a college tour. She took her to the lab, the classrooms, the seminar halls, everything, and then we went back into the room, and the
Mhm.
president asked her, would you like to join our college? So she said yes, and all the formalities were over. Now, why did this happen? In a minute of her submitting her marks, she had built a brand image for herself that she's a
I
good
get your
student
point.
because academically she had got very very good marks, and the faculty member did not want to lose such a student. Similarly, the president and the principal did not want to, so they didn't bother about their lunch. And in spite of this long queue, people are waiting in front of us for hours. She kind of got in. Okay, so a brand helps. What is that brand is what one needs to focus on. And how do you build that is a different question that we'll come to. But that extra attention that she got, which was
Mhm.
send her, who will ask the
Yeah.
faculty member to take her on a tour of the college.
Tour of the
They
college.
really want to keep the student, not want her to go anywhere, so they're giving her a tour of the college, asking her, are you liking the college? In fact, they had just then started a uniform system also. Till then their college did not have uniforms for 11th and 12th, and the
Mhm.
president asked, do you like that uniform?
Oh,
you
okay.
know so a brand helps everyone, everywhere, and even at times when you don't even realize, like here. So it's important for all of us to focus on what brand is being shown, right? There is already a brand about you. So is that what you want people to think about you? And then you should keep enhancing it.
Makes sense. Completely makes sense. So now this leads me to the so and you may not know that you are building a brand, but it just happens. It
Right.
happens organically, I would say. But can we make some conscious efforts to build our brand? Which leads to me in my next question: how to build your personal brand? Because obviously, I don't want to be known as someone which I'm not, because sometimes it just happens, right?
Correct, correct. So true, right? So I think the first step, of course, is to reflect and introspect what we want our brand has to be. That's where we need to start, because not everyone will, have something immediately to say. So, as an example, why do you do this, Ashish? I mean, is there some reason? Because you have a day job and you have plenty of other things. But why would you be doing this, if I may ask, as a quick
Yeah,
thing?
means I feel like the same thing, like there is a lot of knowledge gap between what people learn in academics and what is required in the field. And sometimes the guidance is so much that it confuses people. So we thought like we are first hand doing the job, and why not share that knowledge and make more people be successful in their life, because somebody somewhere helped us also in growing. So we are trying to reflect on that, or like trying to giving back to society. So that's the main idea.
Right. Now, you could have done 100 other things
Exactly.
with the time that you have, right? You could have looked at the environment, you could have looked at something else, but you chose this. So I'm sure there must have been some reflection. Some things come very immediately because you're looking at a problem and you want to solve it. It might be very immediate, but for some of us, we reflect on how do I want to use my time, and then I decide that, okay, let me focus on this, right? So that introspection is what I'm asking people to do a little bit, to say, okay, what is it that I want to be known as, beyond the designation that I carry, or even after I decide to leave the career that I have chosen today, what would I like to continue doing, and hence that brand. And of course, a large part of it comes from your online presence, but we will talk about how do you build it both offline and online.
Hmm.
The first thing that people can do as soon as they're done with this session is Google your name. It will come up with something. Today there is an online
Yeah.
presence for all of us, right?
Anyone, if you
Google
like
your
it or
name.
not, it is there.
Yeah, some things will come up. Now you see, what is it talking about you, what is the story that it is conveying when you Google your name. So when I Google my name, the first thing that is coming up is my LinkedIn profile. And because I use it very heavily, I do a lot of writing on LinkedIn. Then some of my images come up, and then some videos come up, including my TEDx talk. Then some of my writings come up. So when everyone, and this is just one, the first page of the Google search. Now, when you look at this, those who don't know me will make a story out of it. Okay, looks like, she's a speaker.
Hmm.
And then when you read, a lot of her talks are in the space of women leadership, right? So they kind of connect it and say, yeah, she seems to be a speaker who is in the space of women leadership. Now, is that a brand that I want? I will have to kind of answer that for myself. Have I consciously built it, or it just got built? So I'll give you a
Hmm.
story here also. When of course, after my corporate stint, I went and headed the jobs for her foundation. Okay, it's a like an Aspire for her. There's a another, and there are plenty of platforms today for women. So I was heading the jobs for her foundation, and then after 18 months, I kind of moved out from there, and I thought I will start some of my own leadership development programs. So I actually partnered with someone else who was already in that space, and we decided to do a set of webinars. And now this is pre-COVID, so it
Hmm.
was a little new. COVID, we know, we had death
Yeah.
by webinars, but this was pre-COVID. So we launched a webinar on networking, because that was my sweet spot. We did some promotions, etc., and we had about 96 registrations for that. But all of them were women. Not a single man registered for it. So I went back and looked at the posters to see, did I say only for women or exclusively, or did I say networking for women or something? None of that. It just say
Hmm.
networking. Neeraja Ganesh is the speaker, and that's about it. And the beauty was that the partner, he was a male, he had also promoted it on his channels, which had a mixed crowd,
Yeah.
but only 96 women registered. And then it struck me that because of my previous association with Jobs for Her, where
Hmm.
everything that I did was for women,
For women.
any
Yeah.
post that I put out was, if you're a woman, come join this webinar, join this program, women, women, women. They just assumed, even
Yeah,
though
it
it
is for
was not
women. Yeah.
there. that this is also for women, and that's how your brand gets built. Some of it is, without you knowing also. Now, have I tried to correct it? I tried to, by saying that, hey, I'm happy to talk to men also, but men don't talk to me. Thank you for this, opportunity. But usually they, kind of just make me come into women's programs and have a chat with them. So, a few things that you must do when it comes to building a personal brand: be consistent with your messaging. So I'm
Mhm.
happy. I mean, it was really a passion that I had to help women. So it's okay, right? If that is the branding that's gotten built for me, it's okay for me. But you have to be consistent with it. What do I mean by that? Because now I am in the space of women. What is the space? It's about women and careers. You can have many things, right? I have chosen to be in the space of women and careers. Now, there was a startup which is in the women's health space. So they came and they asked me whether I would do some, talks for them on their platform, etc., etc. And I thought about it and said, of course I can speak. I'm a woman, and of course, at the age that I am, I can definitely, talk about women and health. But I thought it just kind of, people will get confused. Now she's talking about women and careers. Now she's talking about women and health, and then tomorrow she'll talk about women and something else. There's a lot of
Yeah,
confusion.
I
And
agree.
in my own brand, people will not have one recall value. So be consistent. I'm not saying that you should only talk about one thing or do one thing. You could have two, three things, not, but be consistent with those three things. Don't
Mm.
keep bringing in new things and confuse your audiences. You have to build it both offline and online. And the third thing is, it takes time. It is an investment for people to start remembering and recalling you with that brand. It is an investment. So quickly, what do you do offline? I have this mantra, I kind of say every interaction is an opportunity for you. So you are at an event, you have gone to a social, setup. Like the other day, somebody had hosted a party and I was over there and they introduced me. And there was this person who was very, very curious about what I do. So it was an opportunity for me to talk about some of
Yeah,
my
exactly.
work. And it continued, now it will stay in his head, and, the brand remains. So show your expertise. Let people find out about your brand related successes through those interactions. Make yourselves easy to contact. So, yes, they heard me. Now,
Mhm.
if they want to reach out to me, how? So, yes, business cards are away, or LinkedIn profiles are away, WhatsApp numbers. That, so ensure that you're easily contactable, so that tomorrow when an opportunity comes and say, I think Neeraja can be
Yeah, I
contacted for
know.
this, they
Mm.
don't have to kind of find out now where to get Neeraja, right? And hence you have to participate in as many events and activities where maybe you'll get introduced. You may not be a speaker, but you could volunteer to say, okay, I want to be the MC, or something. So there will be an opportunity for you to get introduced,
Interactions.
and
Yeah.
then you continue with the role that you have. um, be present at as many networking events that you can, be organized networking events. So all of that is offline, and of course, now we do the same things online also, but a little bit extra that you do online is about usage of online platforms, social media, blog sites, etc. um, be a bit careful with online. While it's a little easier, it is also dangerous, because everything that you do online leaves a trail. Okay, and then it is very difficult to erase that trail.
Erase
So as
it.
I said,
Yeah,
the Google
it
search
will
will
stay
take
there.
out, yeah, a
Yeah.
lot of things. So be very, very conscious about what you do online. So if you want to choose LinkedIn as your professional social media, and you want to keep your personal life aside, you can choose another social media for personal and not mix up both. But
Don't
remember
mix it.
that that will also come up. Your personal bit will
Yeah.
also come up in the search. So how much you put out there from your personal side, you have to be careful, because you need to decide. If I'm on a vacation also, people want to know, and what I wear, at home also people want to know, what I eat people want to know. You decide. There is no do's and don'ts there, but it is about you in terms of how much you want people to know. So there was a very interesting way Karthik Srinivasan had put this. Karthik Srinivasan is a brand by himself, and he writes a lot on, he's got a website, and he writes a lot about advertising, PR, etc. And he does workshops on personal branding. So he had explained it like this: if you have a house with 100 windows,
Hmm.
you close all the 100 windows. Nothing is visible to anyone what is happening inside the house. You open all 100 windows, everything is visible. But if you choose to open only five windows, and which are those five windows? On which side are you opening the five windows?
Hmm.
That's what is known to the world. So choose that. Those three, four aspects of you which you would like others to know, and only open that. Now, don't keep, okay, today these five windows, another day, another those five windows. That kind of,
Doesn't
messes
help. Yeah.
right? And it is important to promote yourself, and that is where social media comes to continuously enhance your brand. So you cannot be in the basement playing guitar for 30 years thinking someone will find you. You have to make your
Yeah.
presence out there. Success isn't showing up. Just like if we want to be fit, you got to show up to the gym, you got to show up, on your exercises, etc. Similarly, you have to show up on your social media, on your blog sites, write on guest blog sites or LinkedIn or whatever else, wherever else you feel. Here Besa is an opportunity and a platform where you could, do some things. So I think that's some of the ways you can build your brand.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Now, when it comes to like some things like any common mistakes to avoid, because yeah, I mean, it's easy to make mistake and it stays on internet as you said. Like so, you are getting recorded, you are on YouTube on a funny video, and you would stay there. Nobody's going to remove you. So how
Yeah.
to avoid common mistakes in that case?
Um, so again, what is a mistake? I mean, I may do something and you may feel, oh my god, what is that? I would never try it, right? So for me it might have been okay, for you it's not okay. So that way I think it is very personal, so I can't
Hmm.
really say that, see, he or she did this and that was a mistake. But
Okay.
a few things that you may want to kind of reflect on is, do you want to be known as controversial, as an example?
Hmm.
So the way you write, the way you speak, and the platforms that you appear on, if they are building a brand presence of being controversial, and if you're wanting to be controversial, great,
Yeah,
but
means that's
without
your
your
choice.
knowledge. So I'm happy to be on Besa, but if there's another platform which I know maybe is controversial, and I choose not to be around controversial platforms, then I avoid that, right? Do you want to be known as highly opinionated,
Hmm.
or you kind of want to, your language is such that you want to present your knowledge, or you want to kind of say, no, this is the way it is? So that's the highly opinionated part of it, right? So your goal, what is your goal eventually with the brand that you establish, will help you in terms of doing certain things, doing where to do, how to do, how much to do. So the goal is very important. That's why that introspection, and then from there the good and bad, the mistakes and the right and the wrong will come through.
Makes sense. Now, so you came to the point like, hey, I'm using some controversial programs, or maybe I am on those platforms. So obviously that sticks with me. So some situations like, or some examples you could share like, hey, this was a good brand or this could be a bad brand. Again, it is perception. I may consider that as good because maybe I follow that ideology, and others may think it is not good. So how you could differentiate, or if I'm in a mix, like should I use that or not, what kind of a checks I could do mentally that hey, I should not do this or I should do this.
A good starting point. So the way I started, right? So when I started, I'll be very honest. In 2016, I didn't even have a LinkedIn profile.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've been in the IT industry for 24 years then, and I didn't have a LinkedIn profile because I was very anti all of this. So
Social
I had a
media, yeah.
Facebook profile because one of my friends really bothered me, and so I created one. But I kept it very close to my family and friends. In 2016, I was thinking of moving out of the company where I was. So somebody suggested you should be on LinkedIn. So I got onto LinkedIn, but again, I connected only with people with whom I had worked in the
Mm-hmm.
past. So again, it was a very small crowd. If someone sent me a link, like if you had sent me, I wouldn't have accepted it. But today I go all out and send requests, right? However, at this conference that I attended, which is where actually a conference changed my mindset. It was a conference for women on a career break. And there was one person, he said to the women who were trying to get jobs and she was finding it difficult, Said, why are you always looking at what you've done in the past? And then you took a break and now you want to restart in the same
Same
space.
field. Yeah.
Yeah. Because opportunities will be limited. And you may not have, kind of kept up your learning also in
Yeah.
that space.
It's fast changing industry.
Yeah. Instead of that, reflect on what your strengths are.
Hmm.
You may be a Java programmer, but your strengths are beyond just programming, right? What is your strength as a person? And where can those strengths be used? It could be used in different kinds of domains, may not even be IT somewhere else. So when I moved from IT into an NGO space, Jobs for a Foundation, a not-for-profit foundation, I was really wondering how I will run this because I have no experience of running not-for-profits.
Hmm.
But I was very good at stakeholder management because I was in the IT world managing projects and stakeholders. That helped me establish partnerships for my not for profit. I was good at communication, so I could build communities and do the social media, etc., etc. So my strengths helped me, right? So I decided that, I was thinking, why didn't I think of this? I was always thinking that if you're IT, you have to be forever IT. But this perspective, why is it that it didn't come to my head?
Hmm.
And then I realized that I was in a cocoon. I'm in an IT world. All conferences that I go to is IT slash banking because that's the domain I am in. Same set of people I meet, even those conferences,
Yeah.
same set of speakers, the same thought process. Now I've come to another conference and you've got people across the industry. So I thought, how do I get these different perspectives into myself? And I started following all the speakers who had come there on that day. And then of course I started building my connections on LinkedIn. And today, I think I don't do anything personal on Facebook also. It's always professional. That's a choice that I have made. And it has been a growth. Like first nothing, then just follow people, then just kind of like people's posts, then start writing content. So you can also observe for a while. You can find out people who you are inspired by and what they do, and
Hmm.
then slowly start. Building content doesn't come easily for many people. So you may just start by putting out a comment on somebody's post. Even that is
Post.
good,
Yeah.
because that is also reflecting of some of your thought leadership.
Thought process.
And
Yeah.
then slowly over a period of time, when you have figured out this is the brand presence I want to have, this is the tone that I want to set, these are the platforms I would like to be associated with. So anything to do with women and students is where I am. You'll always find me, right? So that's a very conscious decision that I have made. And hence I will keep away from other platforms. So it comes over a period of time. Doesn't mean to say that somebody else who's doing completely opposite of what you're doing is wrong or it's bad branding.
Hmm.
As long as it helps your goal, and that is your goal. You
Your goal.
can't be an Neeraja Ganesh, you can't be an Ashish, you can't be a Karthik Srinivas. I can't start aping someone else to say, okay,
No way.
it'll never happen, right? It can't happen in careers also. You can look at someone as a role model. You can get inspired. You can pick up some
Hmm.
traits, but you are you. So build your own brand based on the goals that you have. It will work out good for you.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree on that. So thank you. And I would like to take a question from audience now. That
Sure,
question is coming from Nivedita. I'll put it on screen. It says,
sure.
can we get an example on how to conquer a goal in order to achieve personal branding?
Nivedita, can you explain that a little more? I mean, when you say how to conquer a goal in order to achieve personal branding, so are you saying how do I establish a goal so that it comes up as your brand? I'm just assuming that that might be the question. How do I find my what is that? Because I like 10 things. So that what is those two things that I want to kind of quickly. Okay, great. Okay, I got it right. Um,
S-
so it
Yeah.
is
So
definitely a
let's say
reflection,
yes.
definitely
Yeah.
your reflection. uh, and it is like I was holding another workshop just last week for these women leaders of an organization. And while there can be 100 things we can talk to anyone, right? I can talk about networking, I can talk about work life integration, I can talk about many many things so that they grow in their careers. The first session that I did was on finding your purpose. What is your why? So nobody can tell you what your purpose and your why is, right? You have to reflect on it. And it may, today where you are may not necessarily be your purpose and why at all. Because many of us just are not very intentional about where we are going. We just
Mm-hmm.
get into it because, yeah, college we have to study, these are the most interesting courses or the in demand courses, then we just get sucked in to through campus placement, and then there is a career path in the organization, and we are going, and never had the time to reflect, to say, okay, why am I doing what I'm doing? What is it that I really want to do? So that is something that needs deep reflection. One of the tools that I can tell you is go and Google for what is called as the wheel of life. Okay,
Wheel of life. Okay.
wheel of life. So you need wheels to run anything, a two-wheeler, four-wheeler, you need wheels,
Exactly.
and well-rounded wheels. Even if a slight puncture, it will not go well, right? So on a wheel of life, you can put as many spokes as you want. One is family, one is career, one is community, fitness, health, whatever, build it, right? Most important aspects of your life. And on a scale of 0 to 10, give a number to each of them. So on family, is it 5, 10, 8, 0? On, say your team leadership, if you are a team leader, where do you plot yourselves? On fitness, where do you plot yourselves? Okay. All of them will not be at the same number. Some will be good, some will be bad. So you'll have a very zigzag kind of a wheel. So with this wheel, you're not necessarily able to go ahead. It's really going
Yeah.
to stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. So then you can decide which of those aspects I want to move, and which of those are at a good position and I don't have to invest more time on. And then start working. That's one of the ways you can reflect on your purpose and your why, because you eventually want a very holistic life. Correct? We are good with our careers, money is coming in, good designations, people know us. We are good with our family because, okay, fine, we got married, we have kids and they're studying well. So we are not good with our community, as an example. And so Ashish decided that this is what I want to do, right? So maybe that's how the why comes. And then with that in mind, you start building your thought leadership. Start writing out on social media, start giving talks, do your blogs, find opportunities where you can speak about it. And that kind of keeps enhancing your brand.
Completely makes sense. So yeah, I get it. And the audience, James has put some links on the Wheel of Life, so check that too. So I'm just
Fantastic.
showing it here. So check that, and hopefully that would help. So yeah, as James has said, it's very important about why I am doing it. That is very important aspect. Now
Absolutely.
maybe this one question Neerja ma'am
Sure.
reflects from Karthik said, what are challenges you faced as you built your personal brand? Any bad experience, rejection you faced in the journey?
So see, no, nobody's going to reject you. Okay, fine. Let me look at it this way. If you're saying that I've built a thought leadership on XYZ, right? And that should ideally lead you to, getting your next job, or people seeking you out as the, thought leader in that space. Because those are some of the things that do happen. How do you find candidates for your, vacant roles? There are plenty that will apply, but you also know that, most of them may not fit. They've just applied. So the best way to kind of get candidates is through referrals, or through the recall that you have. Hey, I think I saw this person giving a lot of talks on this particular subject, so why don't I tap on that person and say, hey, are you ready for a job, right? So yeah, from that perspective, if you have built a brand in such a way that people are looking at you very very differently and not very friendly, then you can call it a rejection. But otherwise, if you've done it with a goal in mind, I don't think there is anything called as a rejection, because it was very, very scientific. This is what
Mhm.
I want to be known for. And hence, I'm going to do one, two, three things, which is that every week I'm going to, write a blog post or a social media post to talk about that. So in my case, if I'm really wanting to be known as the DNI, champion, then every week I will write my own content around diversity and inclusion. So that's one thing that I do in a month. The second month, second week, I will go and possibly do a talk. The third week, I may do a third thing that I decide to do. Right. So it's a very goal-driven approach. So over a period of time, as I said, it takes time. Now, Today, how many LinkedIn connections do I have? I'll just quickly look at it. It says 28,968. And 2016, I didn't even have a LinkedIn profile. Okay. Now, it has taken me that time, but I had a strategy around it.
Hmm.
First, I started following people who I used to meet at conferences. I was very scared to send connection requests. Then I said I will send connection requests by putting some meaningful thing in it. I'm looking for a job, so I
Details
want
on
to
that.
connect with you. Cannot be the thing, right?
No.
If you do that, then not everybody can kind of like that kind of a thing. Oh, you're very selfish. You've come to me for a selfish need, right? You may want to say, okay, fine, Nirja, I heard you here, and it was very inspiring. If at all it was inspiring, and I would like to remain connected with you. And of course, I will also like it that, okay, you actually attended one of my sessions and hence you want to connect with me. uh, and then I started putting out content. And now, when people read my content, if I find some engagement on it, people comment, people like, then I feel that these are probably people who I want to keep in my network. Okay. So that's how you're building your network. So personal brand and network goes together, right? So there's never a bad experience. Of course, you may have a few people who land up in your network because of this, because you found this person having liked your post. You said, okay, I will connect with him or her, and then you find that this person is not professional. Those things can happen, but that will happen anywhere, right? It's not because you are on a building a personal brand journey. But if you are goal driven and you are very consistent, it doesn't mean every day you have to do, doesn't
I
mean every
agree.
day you have to write. But what is your consistency? If Wednesdays are the day you're going to write, you
Hmm.
will see after 3 months people are waiting for your Wednesday post.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And if you miss that Wednesday post, people will say, hey, what happened?
What happened?
Had so
Yeah.
many. See, I'm not very consistent in terms of days of the week or what content I put out. I do put out very frequently, but I don't have a calendar.
Hmm.
But during some festive season, say Navaratri for 10 days, I'm very busy at home. I may not put out a content. I've had people messaging me and saying, hey, I hope everything is fine with you. And I say, why? Because I didn't see you on LinkedIn at all.
Yes.
So
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
people are
People
observing
people
this.
wait
So,
for it. I agree
yeah,
on
so
that.
consistency is very important.
Consistency is the key. Nice, thank you. And we are nearing to the time, but I feel like it should never end. So I would take like one more question from audience,
Sure.
and this may be like I also wanted to ask that how do you improve public speaking and plan your speech according to audience? Today, you use very simple but impactful language. There were no complex phrases or idioms, but it was very easy to connect. Yeah, that is a common thing. Like when
Right.
people start public speaking, they want to use those heavy words or complicated sentences or complex formations. So yeah, it looks good, but then it somehow confuses people in understanding the basic concept or basic things you are trying to relate to.
Right, right. Very, very true. And thank you for that. So, I will tell you that I was a very meek, timid, shy girl who never spoke. And for the first 10 years of my career, I didn't even say hi to the person who was sitting next to me. I was that shy. Okay. And today, of course, I'm a public speaker. So the transformation has happened, and that's a story for another day. But when I started speaking, like public speaking, which was first, it was because I was head of jobs for her foundation. And in that role, you get invited to
You
speak.
heard, yeah.
They didn't call Neeraja, they called the head of jobs for her foundation. And when I went and started giving talks, I used to be, in the storytelling mode. I used to narrate my experiences. And when I narrate my experiences, it just connected with people. I think more than doing some research and picking up some slides, which is theory, when you talk about your own experiences about that theory, it connects better because people will always remember that story. We know that storytelling is the way to communicate
Yes, the way.
wherever, however, not only for public speaking. If you're a project manager, if you are an architect, when you want to connect with somebody else, you try to say, no, this is what this. You use all the technical jargon,
Hmm.
it will not cut it. You give a story from your past that when we did not use it like this, you know what happened? It created this huge problem for us. It'll just immediately connect, right? So when I started sharing my experiences, people started coming to me and they said, we have not heard anyone like you. And what it makes us feel is if you went through it and you could, kind of overcome, if I was
Overcome
talking
it.
about a challenge, we can also do it. So that was very powerful for me. And I said, just by sharing 5 minutes, so today for maybe 30, 40 minutes, I've shared some experiences. And if it could have an impact, I mean, I don't lose anything, right? And I would like to do more of this. So that's how my journey on, talking at different platforms started. My journey on writing also started, because how many platforms, and this was pre-COVID, so how many conferences can I physically go to?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let me start writing, so that at least more people can read, and that's how I started building a LinkedIn profile. So to improve public speaking, the simple thing, and forget public speaking, general speaking, start to use stories. Instead of saying, I know this is I'm the expert here, and this is the way to do it, whether it is
Hmm.
at home, in your community, in your office. Try to bring some story of your past, which will aid that conversation that you're having.
Conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to kind of emphasize on a particular point, bring a story. Like, for example, I talk about intentional careers. I tell people, you have to be very intentional about what career choices you make and where you want to be in the next 5, 10 years. Big word, intentional career. Samajh mein nahi aaya. You don't know what it is. But if I say, see, you get out of the house in the morning and you say, okay, today I'm going to take the car and go on a drive. You don't know where you want to go, but you just want to spend the next couple of hours on the road driving the car and wherever it takes you. The minute, I mean, you've gone out, and after half an hour, there is a block on the road
Hmm.
that you are at. Now, what do? Since you didn't have any goal in mind, you may just come back home. Say,
Come back
okay,
home.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you had a goal, you wanted to
Hmm.
reach a destination,
Reach
you're
a
not going to
place.
come back home.
No,
You're going to
you will
find
figure out.
Google Maps, this, that, or I'll wait here, but I have to reach there. That is intentional career. If you don't have a goal that in 5 years I want to be here and 10 years I want to be there, the minute something comes your way, you'll say, okay,
You get distracted.
yeah. So when I narrate this example and a story, now you understand intentional careers
Easy to
better.
connect. Easy to
Yeah.
connect.
So that's speaking, and then public speaking. Make it storytelling, and you'll be successful.
Nice, interesting. I really like that way. Yeah, storytelling is a way to go. Yeah, means it feels like it's like kiddish approach, but I would say no, it is the best approach to
Right.
explain anything, and that sticks into your mind. It's not like, hey, I just heard a word, but you start narrating that story as soon as it comes to your mind. So
True.
really, really nice to that. So yeah, that is a great example. Yeah, thank you for that. So yeah, we really appreciate your time, Nija ma'am. It was really good experience, and we wish to talk to you maybe in some other sessions, maybe some other time. Yeah, but it was really, really good to have you here and speak up about how to build brand and how to go around some of the common challenges people face. And we really admire your time and passion, so thank you for that. And probably we would be still connecting on LinkedIn. We would be sharing these videos also. So good to have you here. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. And I wish everyone here all the very best. And I'm hoping to get some LinkedIn requests saying, Nirja, I heard you at
Yeah,
this session, and we can stay
exactly,
connected.
exactly. So build your brand, at least the first exercise get started with. So yeah,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Bye.
Th- Thank you. Bye. Have a good one. And for participant, we will have a 5 minute break, and then we will have James coming up. So thank you. James would be here in a 5 minute. I'll put a timer so that you can all maybe fill up your coffee or top up your water bottle and be with us again in 5 minutes. Thank you so much, Neeraja. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.